Hi. A large part of this channel focuses on books, but I also watch a lot of movies. Whenever I see a book that's been on my I really want to read list for ages gets adapted to a TV or movie, I always think should I just watch it? Or do I just rush and try and finish the book as quick as possible so that I get that organic experience? Or do I just accept the fact that the movie is going to spoil the book and deal with it? Book adaptations in TV and film, they usually suck. There are rare exceptions, but most of the time I will read the book first. Is that the right option? Is it the best option? Make sure you subscribe to the channel for all sorts of book and non-book related content. This channel it's a lot of things. Liking the video also really helps, really way more than you'd think. So, why books? Well, first of all, books have way less restrictions on them. Every minute of movie screen time costs like $80 bajillion to make. Probably. Whereas a book can spend the time it needs to make it right. No expensive set design. No crazy visual effects. Just words. Good words. Great language. Maybe, hopefully, if the writer's any good. This also means the book is going to have richer characters. Better worlds. Plots will have more detail. More emotions. Most tellingly, there will also be side plots, more than just the one that most movies have. There'll be multiple little side plots. Think of all your favorite movies that were adapted from books that they don't seem quite right. The Harry Potter movies, there's so many little stories that's just cut from the books completely. Ragtime, though I don't think anyone's seen that, it's really good, but also the book is 5 times more. Movies have to cut so much to get to the barest bones. You lose some of that closeness of the characters or the full extent of the world. However, there are some times when the movie is just better. Maybe this means it adds more detail and it takes a simple concept and expands it outwards, like Curious Case of Benjamin Button, a 4-second book by Scott Fitzgerald adapted into a 300-hour-long movie. Or Matilda. Remember Matilda? The movie's way better than the book. Willy Wonka, the original, the classic one, not the weird Johnny Depp one. That movie is so good. The book's got nothing on it. I will fight anyone who disagrees. Then, of course, you got the opposite, where the movie actually condenses something and makes it maybe a bit better. The Martian, great movie. The book, super good. But most people who aren't giant nerds are going to find some of it a little boring and all the sciencey stuff. There's so much cut down. It's a simpler, smoother piece of cinema. It's better in a way for certain people. TV is less commonly better, though. Most of the time, a TV series is kind of just a shameless cash grab. One time where I'll say the TV adaptation is actually better than the books, Life After Life. Published in 2013, Life After Life was just recently last year released as a little miniseries. It's got Tomlika McClinton. She's the Jojo Rabbit. She's the trapped person in Jojo Rabbit. The book wasn't bad. Really enjoyable read. It's fine. It's fine. But it's one of those books with just enough frustrations and problems in it that you kind of go, I'm not going to put this up on a pretend bookshelf. I'm not going to read that again. Also, not a short book. 600 pages. This is a long boy. It's big. It takes a long time. And when you invest time into it, the problems, they get more noticeable. So when I found out there was a TV show for Life After Life, my expectations were low. But I had some free time. It looked cool. Let's give it a try. And it's way better. Way, way better. So how? Why? Where did the book go wrong? And how did the TV show do it better? If you've had a chance to actually watch this show, or just read the book and are curious about the show, let me know down below. I'd love to hear you if you have any differing opinions or, the same opinions, because this is fine, but the show. Basic little premise for those who haven't seen it, or it's Groundhog Day, but like in World War II kind of thing. Ursula is born and dies again and again and again, being reborn into an alternate universe, potentially, every single time she dies. She's reborn into the same circumstances, but things happen a little bit differently every single time. This is the kind of thing that can get really repetitive. Groundhog Day did it super well by constantly cutting the obvious bits of, can't even remember the main character's name, his life. It just was all the new things he was experiencing again on each loop. And the book tries to do this. It tries to make it different. It tries to make it interesting. It's a little confusing. And the more you talk and think about it, you're like, oh, all right. But the TV show, it manages to make it really consistent. Go back to the Groundhog Day example. When you get the loops again and again, it's this kind of consistent vibe, the same radio show playing as he wakes up, the same people talk to him in the first little bits of an instance of his day. Things seem to almost be on this continued track for his life. It's super easy to show that repetitive nature visually, But in words, how on earth do you go back to a person's life again and again as they're reborn? It's dull. It's super boring. Kate Atkinson tries to overcome this by having it dwell on different things, like different details, different qualities of like the room and the people in it and things that happen. They're described differently each time, but not so much that you don't know where you are. We get to see her birthday 12 times throughout the book. She just keeps coming back. But the problem is, even though she changes up the details, it's still like a little boring. It's just like it's a little dull. Have to do the same thing again and again and again. There's a constant motif of this snow appearing, and that's when she kind of knows she's gonna die and be reborn without really like knowing it. And the snow is a visual clue to the reader that, you know, we're about to go through a rebirth again. Gets kind of boring in text, right? But in a show, you just have to have a little sprinkle of snow and boom, you know what's going on. You're coming right back. It's great. It's visually better storytelling. This kind of visual storytelling to let the audience know what's going on is a great example of how sometimes just TV is better than books. Take the just bad, but we'll talk about it for this example, 13 Reasons Why. I've reviewed that book on this channel actually, link will be below, and maybe if I remember in a card over here, the main character gets a little scratch on his forehead, a little boo-boo with a plaster, and that lets you know whether we're in the before or the after time of the event. And that's all you need. That's a fantastic little bit of visual storytelling to place the viewer precisely in the time the director wants you. That's harder in a book. The same exact thing happens whenever Ursula dies. Reading the description of a character dying, sometimes in pretty similar ways, gets kind of boring. At one point the author clearly gets bored. They write darkness and so on. They got bored writing the events of their book, and they literally yada yada their way through it.
Is yada yada bad?
Oh, yada yada's good. She's very succinct.
But in a TV show, you can just like do a little montage of doom, or you can just do it quick, or each death can be distinct, that the ones that are similar and repetitive, they can happen quickly, almost off screen. This is especially helpful when, hey, if you're born in 1910, guess what? You're probably gonna die in the Spanish flu. And Ursula does, a bunch of times. It's not fun reading about a character dying of an illness again and again and again and again. The show can just do it super quick and just jump right over it. You have to give the author some credit. You know, they tried. It's hard in a written medium, but visually, it's just such better storytelling. It's faster. The other big problem, pace. The book is long. I've said that already. Have I mentioned? It's long. The show is 4 one-hour episodes, so it's 4 hours long. That seems pretty long, but you know what? It feels way faster. Like, it flows. The pacing is just there. Like I said, you can skip over all the kind of boring parts, the repetitive bits, and you can just get to the meat of it. The whole story really just serves as a way to kind of relive the events of the First World War, Interwar, and early World War II period kind of again and again and again. And it's pretty cool, the way to kind of dwell into that in different angles. Sometimes she's in this country, sometimes she's in that country. This time she's a typist in London. This time she's in Germany, which becomes relevant. Importantly, it's a cool way of just showing multiple angles of a multifaceted time period, but all through the eyes of one character, as well as giving that sense of like, ooh, something's a little weird. It's a little hackneyed at times in the show.
What if we could come back and live it all over again and again and again?
Oh, look, and then she does that. The TV show has it in a sort of 4-part format, which flows way better. The first episode is sort of just like the introduction of the concepts and experiencing it, and some childhood experiences. Second episode is more like teenager time. She's managed to, you know, get past the initial things that keep killing her. But also, it's about the inciting incidences, where one thing can change your life. You know, that's a cool concept. And then how if you went back and did one thing differently. Like, that's the inevitable query, how rebirth could affect things, especially when you don't actually know you're doing it, which is kind of cool. So it takes like multiple lives to try and like make an effective change. You also get this really cool underlying plot of, does she kind of know what's going on? And then over time, the realization that something is weird, something's not quite right. And over time, maybe does she start to use that? Does she start to learn it? Is she able to control her rebirths? Is she being reborn for a reason? This feeling grows throughout the whole show. And through the book, but throughout the whole show, and it's done just so much better, where she can make certain actions. It's almost like the phrase, pricking of my thumbs. She just knows, I should Ooh, and that's a really interesting way to affect rebirth. There's like a lot to the book and indeed the show, but more so to the book. Like, is it about rebirth and new opportunities or missed opportunities? Is it about like, oh, this time period was interesting, let's just go back to it again and again and again? In a way, that's one of the strengths of the book, that it can actually appeal to lots of different audiences. But of course, that means it doesn't really do any of them very well. Whereas the show just feels tight. It's tight all together. It constrains it and it forces it to focus on the cool stuff. You got the Spanish flu, you got World War I, you got the Blitz, you got the war, you got like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, one detail could change my life. It's tight, it's good. And that's like the central problem. The show is tight and clear with its purpose. It introduces at the very beginning the idea, oh, you could go back and do your life again. And then it does that. And then by the end of it, you know she's done that. Whereas the book is just sort of a series of things that are happening to the character. And there's so many directions and points and like possible points of discussion that it feels aimless and confusing. Another thing is like, what's the message? There's like a message of hope in the show, you know, possibility and an opportunity and maybe what you could achieve and what you could do if you could go back again and again. And the book, is she cursed? Is she like in hell? What is this? Why is this happening? Nothing seems to have purpose or meaning. Whereas the show, it's satisfying. It's consistent. It's tight. Plus, all the benefits I said at the beginning are present in the show as well. Cut characters that are dumb are cut. Some plot points, some unnecessary stuff is trimmed down, and it feels bare bones, but like in a good way. Basically, the show has this one theme, and it goes all the way through. There's some side bits, but ultimately the theme is working towards the conclusion. In the book, you got the theme, and then you got the other stuff, and then you got some more stuff. This is one of those really, really rare times where the limitations of the screen have actually made it better. The show just tells a really good story about a girl who can't seem to die. So, should you read the book or watch the show? I really hate to say it, but just watch the show. It's just better. Let me know down in the comments if you have any dissenting views or if you can think of another show or movie where it's just miles better than the book. Thank you so much for watching. Do be sure to subscribe. Said it already. I'm going to say it again. Check out Patreon down below if you're really so inclined. And I'll see you next time with more green screen. It's beautiful. Bye-bye.